Could you pass the phone to Lyle?
Yes, he's right here. Harvey,
Hey, I'm really
little brother grew up pretty well, huh?
he, he clearly has a purpose if he gets out. What's yours? What's yours?
We have pretty much a shared purpose, in terms of the victims community for decades. It's something that we've been involved with, and a lot of our joy, a lot of our grief is come from that community. So we have a phrase we call "speaking shame," and it's helping people find their voice in their trauma. I was the first person to testify in front of a national audience about male sexual abuse. I received a lot of ridicule in the 90s about it, but also a lot of support and a lot of victims reaching out, appreciating that, and finding their voice through mine. So that sort of inspired us to keep doing that. And we think that there's a hunger for that in the country. We would love to be part of that and heal in that way. The other passion I have is Green Space, the Green Space Project, and working with corrections to find ways to lower recidivism. Because Eric and I have spent 30 years with a life without sentence watching people parole and come right back, parole and come right back. It's a crisis in the country. It's creating more victims, as well as destroying the families of the inmates that have to come right back. And so corrections is looking for, Governor Newsom has an amazing initiative to change the culture of corrections. He calls it the California model. And one of them is this idea of finding a way to create community within the prison facility. So I founded a group with the idea of redesigning the entire prison facility so that it's like a college campus with trees and outside classrooms and wellness circles and areas where people could find community and start changing their life in a way to become a good neighbor. And so that's our major project with the Green Space Project that you sometimes hear about. It's going to be a couple-year project. And if we're blessed enough to be free, we've been told we can come back and continue to finish that project and expand it throughout the system. So we're very excited about that.
I want to ask you a question that's sort of in the TMZ wheelhouse, just because so many people have talked about this Ryan Murphy limited series on you and Eric. Do you have any opinion about it? Were you able to see it based on what you know? What do you think?
We were able to see quite a bit of it. I watched some of it through video chat that they allow us to do here. And obviously we've seen a million clips of it on TV and heard about a lot about it. So we feel like we've seen the entire thing. We have not yet. But, to me, it's just a funny thing. The media and Ryan Murphy's project was very widely disseminated, and it really did actually move a lot of people to understand the childhood trauma that Eric and I suffered, and particularly the horrific stuff that Eric suffered. Cooper Koch's rendition of Eric and his trauma was pretty extraordinary. So was actually Nicholas's. So I feel, I feel in the end, a lot of people were educated about what can happen even in rich, in affluent homes behind walls and behind hedges, and manicured lawns. And so I think it opened a lot of people's eyes, and that's always a good thing, Abuse, like my brother touched on it, it expands. It requires being in the shadows of society, because once you bring a spotlight on it, the bullying and the trauma tends to find healing or find recourse. And so I feel like shining a light on it. Ryan Murphy did, and his project ended up doing that. And so in that way, I think we are grateful.
Yeah. Could you pass the phone to Eric?
Sure, absolutely.
I was gonna shut them down. So look at Harvey getting thirsty.
Hey,
Yeah.
Eric, if you had to pick one moment that you could look back on while you were incarcerated, something you were proud of, what would it be?
I think in life we tend to highlight the thing that we've worked most on in trying to achieve. And obviously, 9 years ago, I put together Life Care and Hospice, and it's had a tremendous impact. So it's easy to point to something like that. But I've learned, as I've matured through the years, that our best moments are the ones that are not spoken about, that are not highlighted, that we do when we're alone and we just help somebody, or we help an animal, or we make somebody smile that's feeling down, that might have gone and harmed themselves if we weren't there. And those little moments happen in prison every single day because there's so much trauma and so much tragedy and so much depression and sadness and self-loathing and self-condemnation. And so just being kind. I have a phrase that I like to use in Life Care and Hospice, that kindness is cool. Kindness is cool. Cool with a K. And so just in those small things in the day, frankly, I believe they add up to what is a successful life. And it's easy to point to, oh, this person made a lot of money, or this person had the right job, or this person achieved this or that. But really, are they a good person? And I hope they are. But our goodness is in the things that we don't even remember. Someone that comes up to you and says, "Hey, you gave me a smile when I was feeling bad," and you don't remember it. So it's in those daily moments that we find ourselves and we find the beauty of life. And so I would point to any of those little moments rather than anything that I can say, "Oh, look at me, I must be a good person because I did that," when I don't think that's what defines you.
I'm going to say I'm going to say something to you, Eric, that it's my opinion. And I'm kind of shocked by this, listening to both you and Lyle. I covered your trial, and a lot came out in the trial where a lot of people ended up saying, well, these are spoiled brats. They bought all this stuff and all that. And I listened to both you and Lyle now, and I just hear different people from what I remember covering that case. Do you feel that? I mean, do you feel an evolution? Because I'm hearing it, and having covered the trial, I feel like I'm talking to two completely different people.
I do. I grew up in an affluent home. I was a spoiled brat. I had deep insecurity issues and tried to hide those issues, and I was taught that you do it through the best clothes or the best car or whatever of those things that we now know is completely dysfunctional and frankly just a sign of internal pain. And I was also a teenager, and so I look at teenagers now and I think if I were to see an 18-year-old come onto a prison yard now, I would think that person's not safe. Like I don't look at that person and say, oh, you have all of your stuff together and you know what's going on and you have a good sense of self. So I think that my youth and deeply misguided, imprinted ideas of what success meant in life were reflected in your sentiment, and I'm not surprised that you felt that way. I look back and I'm so ashamed and embarrassed about even the little things that I did in life, and I'm not sure anyone looks back on their teenage years and is really fully proud of themselves. Maybe you are, Harvey. I'm sure Mark is, but
I'm sure Mark is too.
I'm not that person, but who I've evolved into, who I've seen Lyle evolve into, I'm beginning to like myself and be proud of myself and find it okay to like myself and not hate myself.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
What happened to me as a child. So I think that's an accurate sentiment, and I'm striving to be a good person, and I'm striving to be a better person every day, and I want to be a person that my family can be proud of, for certain. I want my daughter to be proud of me, and my wife to be proud of me, and my extended family to be proud of me, and my brother to be proud of me. And so that's who I am today. Let me have Lyle say goodbye to you, Harvey.
Appreciate it.
Goodbye, Eric. I'll talk to you.